Behind the Scenes. This is Lisa Condit, and I am so excited to introduce you all to Gail Buckley. She is our costume designer for Troy's adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Gail, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm well.
Well, I just have to say that I watch A Christmas Carol, of course, every year that it comes to the Hanover Theater, and I cannot even begin to describe how sumptuous and gorgeous the costumes are. It really is one of those distinguishing features of this production, and you are the woman responsible for that.
Me and a bunch of other people, but yes, thank you.
Well, how many other people do you have actually helping you?
It depends on the day. I work for the rest of the year at a freelance costume shop called Costume Works, which is in Somerville, Massachusetts, and that's where all of our costumes are fit, altered, and built. So if I need more people on this project, depending on who the sizes of the people are, and if Troy can come up with more cash, then I can have more bodies working for me. But I would say on this piece, there'll probably be 5 people.
That's amazing. How many total costumes are you working on for this production?
Oh, gosh. There's 31 people in the play, and I believe each of them has at least 2 costumes. So it's between 60 and 80, depending on the person. Some people have more costumes, some people have less, depending on which characters they play throughout the piece.
And I have to say, I think that one common misperception that people have when they hear costumes is, oh, it's a costume, no big deal. Lisa, can you send a costumed actor to come and do this promotional tour with us here in the city of Worcester? And the thing that people need to realize is there's a lot of research that goes into this. There's a lot of fine workmanship. And why don't you just take us a little bit through that process of how do you construct, how do you research each piece for your characters?
Well, to begin with, Troy and I sat down and talked about the play, 5 years ago, and each part of Scrooge's life happens in a different time period, and so we had to be really specific in choosing when the Fezziwig party would be and when the present is, and the future is a little trickier because the future and the present are pretty close together, because we don't imagine Scrooge is going to live much longer than he is now when we see him at the beginning of the play. So we started there, and then I looked at different sort of characters in research in those specific periods. And when you're researching a period such as the Fezziwigs, which is 1815, your primary research materials at that point there's no photography, so they're paintings. So you have to look at various paintings. There are costume history books. There are other people's plays and other people's movies that they've done in that period too, but they're usually affected by a lot of other choices and not incredibly period specific. So that part of it is very interesting to me, and also just finding what helps tell the story and doesn't make it so extremely period correct that it's strange or off-putting to the audience. Because if they can't look at a person and understand that they're who they are and what they're doing, even if it's a different time period, then you haven't really done your job as a designer. So.
Well, and the detailing is just exquisite on these costumes, and the fabrics themselves. Do you have a favorite that you like to see on stage, or that was a special bear to work on?
Oh, well, both of those things are the Ghost of Christmas Present.
That's one of my favorites, absolutely. Do you want to describe that to our listening audience?
It's a very large, very heavy green brocade robe that's lined in a red brocade that is trimmed in white and has some holly detailing on it. And this year I'm going to try and do some painting on the belt, which I've really been trying to do the last few years and have run out of time.
Oh, it's one of my favorites. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I also love the actor who plays the Ghost of Christmas Present. So that it always makes me happy to see him and work on it. And I do try and do a little bit more each year to them to change them up, and also just to try and complete the design, because often you have a design idea, you're able to do maybe 80% of it, and then the play has to open because there are so many other things that need to be done. So I do like to try and move it along every year.
So anything special that you want to tell us about what's coming this year that's added, not just the hand-painted belt, but anything else?
We are reconfiguring Christmas Future this year, so that will be challenging for us and the actor who plays Christmas Future, and the people backstage who have to help Christmas Future, because that is always a challenging, tricky way to get him on and off stage carefully and safely with the moving scenery and the flying things. So
I know there's so much going on.
Yes, hopefully this year it'll be a little bit smoother in transition. So.
And just to give the men fair play, also the vests that you've made for all of the male characters are gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
I think that people would love to wear those today, to be honest with you. I know I would.
I think they should. I'm dressed really badly today. It's either they dress beautifully or they dress horribly. There's hardly ever any in between.
Well, and so, Gail, you do a lot more than just the costumes for A Christmas Carol. Do you want to tell people about some of the other costumes that you've worked on?
This year in particular, I seem to be doing a lot of opera, which is always interesting and challenging in a different way, because you have to really collaborate with the singers to make sure that what you're putting them in isn't going to be a conflict in their singing, because the most important thing is their singing. So that's always challenging but fun, because opera is over-the-top dramatic, or the emotions are so large that is always fun to work on, because a lot of theater, the emotions are a little more contained. But I'm doing, let's see, what have I'm trying to think if I'm doing any more straight plays this year. I just opened It's a Wonderful Life at the Stone Theater. That was an adaptation of the movie, and that was also challenging, because everyone loves that movie, and it's very hard to get away from trying to replicate somebody else's work in a contemporary sort of time. Although it's set within the period of the movie, it's still us trying to sort of have the same feeling as the movie without the giant budget and the long and the ability to stop filming and change the scenery and all of that. So that was sort of challenging, but fun.
And so how did you get your start? What got you interested in making costumes for theatrical productions?
A friend of mine was doing a project in high school, and he knew that I sewed and asked me to help him, and I did, and I really enjoyed it. I like helping describe character and tell the story of the play more than I like to make pretty beautiful dresses or, attractive men. I really like to help the audience figure out who the character is by looking at the person.
Well, you certainly succeed, Gail. And you know what? When all of the characters come onto the stage at the Hanover Theater for A Christmas Carol, it takes people's breath away. So I thank you for your great work on that. Is there anything else you want to leave people with? I
would say that when you're looking at a costume and you think, oh, it's just a costume, if you consider that actor wears that for 2 hours a day, 5 days in a row, and dances and does quite a few physical activities on it, they're actually made better than the clothes that we wear.